Hi, everyone. Welcome to the Last Life Ever podcast. I'm Jillian Sidoti, one of your hosts. My co-host is Jeffrey Holst. And today we have on the program who? Jeff, who?
We have Danielle Kettlewell. You put me on the spot here. It's a good thing I remember her name.
Danielle is an Olympic competitor, and she actually, I can't wait to talk to her because I have a son who was trying to get into the Olympics and doing it in a very similar way that she did it, and she's going to tell us all about her journey. And I find these types of stories fascinating, where somebody is just like, I think I'm going to do this thing, this massive thing, and I'm going to figure it out. I'm going to figure out how to do it. And I'll let her tell you all about it right after this.
Help me, my brother, can you lend me a hand as I walk through this land of confusion? If we give to each other, then there's nothing to take. Let's live life for the moment before it slips away.
Danielle, thanks so much for being here.
Hello, I'm so excited to be here with you guys. This is such a relevant, when you guys were telling me about your podcast, I was like, yes, these are my people. This is what I love to talk about. We are meant to meet.
Awesome. So I love that. Yeah, and I'm going to have to ask Jeff to step aside because I have a lot of questions today, which is not unusual, but today,
he's done.
Jeff literally
we don't need Jeff.
For those of you listening on the podcast, he literally just left. All right, Jeff, come back. So, Danielle, you tell us your journey, because you're Canadian, but you ended up on the synchronized swimming team for Australia. Do you have connections to Australia? Tell us how this all happened.
It's a pretty wild story. And so I will share all the things and answer all the questions today, but I did write my book, which is called The Unlikely Olympian, which just that title gives you a little bit of an insight of my story was a little bit different than the average person that gets the opportunity to go to the Olympic Games. So exactly like you said, I'm actually born in Vancouver, Canada. That's where I am right now, actually. But my parents are Australian. They immigrated from Australia to Canada years ago when they were in their 20s, and me and my siblings were all born and raised here. And so when I was little, my mom threw me into this wild sport called synchronized swimming. It's also called artistic swimming at the Olympics now. They've changed the name. Same sport though. And I was, my parents grew up on Bondi Beach, right? My dad surfed, we're water family people. And so of course they chucked me in the water. I was swimming from a young age, and I'm too tall to do gymnastics. I'm about 5'9", so I would never make it as a gymnast. But I love dancing and kind of expressing myself. And so my mom put me in synchronized swimming when I was little. And after a few years, I fell in love with it. Not only the athletic strength that you need and the endurance and the team part of it, but also, being a little girl, I get to wear sparkly bathing suits and makeup, so I was sold, right? My one problem though was I was never a talented athlete. I wasn't the best at my sport. I wasn't the MVP. I wasn't the most likely to go to the Olympics. I was the bottom. I was like the girl on the bench with a great attitude who was a great team player. I was the one that no one expected anything of. And so the reason, I call myself the Unlikely Olympian, my book, The Unlikely Olympian, is because I truly, hand on my heart, never in a million years thought I would end up at an Olympic Games.
Okay, I have to stop you. I'm sorry. I just have to do this. So you remind me so much of another Canadian Olympian that we had on the show, Heather Moyes.
So similar.
Because Heather wrote this book, Redefining Realistic, right, where she talked about her experience of becoming a gold medal bobsledder for the Canadian Olympic team, and how she never ever thought of herself as an Olympian. She was a track star in high school, but didn't even really compete much after that, and then just randomly ends up in this spot. And what I took from her and what I'm feeling from you is like, people can do things that they would never expect. Like, you didn't expect to have this experience, which is why I'm officially declaring myself a future Olympian right now. I just wanted to share that with you. Yeah. I'm gonna start a curling team in Puerto Rico. I think this will work. There's 3 curling teams in Puerto Rico. Yeah. I live in Puerto Rico, and so I don't have to worry about dual citizenship, because as an American citizen, as soon as I move to Puerto Rico, I'm Puerto Rican. So I don't think that's exactly how it works, but I think I can make that happen. So
yeah, curling. Okay, that's a great one. Archery, great one. I met a
guy. Do you want to be my coach? Like, have you ever thought about coaching?
Let's do it. I'm so down.
Like, the Olympic Puerto Rican.
You might not know anything about curling, and but A and B,
she knows about the Olympics, though. That's a starting point. She knows more about curling than I do.
Yeah, you need somebody to throw the little pucky thing. You need somebody to brush the ground.
Yes.
You need several people to brush the ground.
Yes, you can be one of my brushers, my sweepers, as we call them.
Jillian,
you definitely can be a sweeper on my team if you'd like.
Okay, but let's get back to Danielle. Okay, so Danielle, you're like the little what is it? The little train that could, or
yeah,
little engine
I think I can. But like, I wasn't even, because I was like, I didn't think I could.
But how old were you when you started doing synchronized swimming? Isn't like one of those sports you sign up for. They're like, hey, like there's synchronized sports tryouts going on. I mean, at least not here in America. It's kind of like soccer, baseball, basketball, whatever. So how did you even find this sport, and B, I imagine in Canada that is like a trial and tribulation in itself, because it's always cold. So the idea of getting into a pool. I lived in Maine and took a lifeguarding license. I got my lifeguarding license in Maine, and just the idea of getting into a pool, no matter if it was indoors or not, was just like, not today.
Yeah, so it was just a local pool. There's like synchronized swimming, like they have like come and tries, like, and it's actually more of a popular sport than you would think. It's and there's quite, like, the U.S. team is quite good. They were huge at the early 2000s. They kind of dipped, and now they're having a comeback in the States at least. And so there is definitely more than you would think out and around there. And so I think my mom was just like, you know what? I think she needs to try this out. Let's be honest, swimming laps is a bit boring. You just go back and forth. No offense, Michael Phelps, but like, it's a bit boring, right? And I mean,
he listens to his podcast like every week. So
okay.
We'll call him later and tell him, like, don't take offense to that.
Yeah. And I think I just wanted more stimulation, and like, I loved dancing and I loved, movement, but I'm a bit awkward as well. And the good thing is, when you're in the water, you can't actually fall because you're already in the water, but you can fall on land. So that was like a great thing about doing synchronized swimming. And like I said, I started when I was 8, and a lot of girls do start around like 8 to 10 years old, because it is such a complicated sport. It does take years, to develop and to get better at it. It isn't something you can just pick up and do. And so to keep in mind, like, I started in 2001. I went to the 2016 Olympics, so I was about 15 years almost in total of doing the sport. And I did it at a relatively high level in Canada. I got the opportunity to go to national championships a couple of years in a row. But again, I was like the girl on the bench. Like, I was the reserve. I was the bottom of the ranks. I wasn't the one that anyone would ever think that would go anywhere and get to an Olympic Games. And so I remember when I was in year 12, I decided to retire. I say kind of as it's funny, I was 18 years old and I retired. Little did I know that wasn't really the end of the line for me. I stayed involved in my sport because I loved it. And I talk about this all the time. I think it's so important, whether you go to the Olympic Games or not, like, keep doing the things that you love, even if it isn't going to get you anywhere, because doing the things that light you up, that adds vitality and excitement and passion to your life, right? So I stayed involved in my sport at a recreational level. So I was just swimming a couple hours a week. And in 2013, I was actually training. I was at university. I was working a couple jobs, and I was training with my teammates one day. We were doing this thing called highlights and synchronized. We basically, if you ever watched cheerleading, we create like a human pyramid underwater. None of us are touching the bottom. We all egg beat her up to the surface. We create a spring with our bodies, and then someone jumps off the top and does flips and then lands in the water. And what a lot of people don't know is one of the most common injuries in synchronized swimming is concussions. because of our highlights. And what happened that day is my teammate went up. And again, this isn't like American football. I have no helmets. I have nothing. My teammate went up and she fell straight down on my head. And so if you have a person that falls from about 1 meter, 2 meters in the air on top of you, right? Like that is a pretty intense impact. My teammates pulled me out of the water. I kind of, was tough and brushed it off. And when I was driving home that night, I started to feel really nauseous. I had a horrible headache. And I was trying to study for my midterm the next day. And I remember looking at the words on the paper. And I knew it was English, but I had no idea what it said. And I was diagnosed the next day with concussion. And, again, I still think in this day and age, we kind of brush off concussions. We say it in the football game, so they're fine, they just have a concussion. But it really is similar to kind of struggling with your mental health. Because, again, I looked fine. I didn't have cuts or bruises. I didn't have stitches. I wasn't bleeding. But my mind wasn't right. And one of the side effects of concussion, of course, is depression. Because the only thing you can do to recover from a concussion is to lay in a dark room and do nothing, because that's how your brain recovers. And so you can imagine if you have to spend a month in a dark room and not doing anything, especially for someone who's active, right? That's going to lead to depression. And so that was kind of a moment in my life where I was really questioning, like, why is this happening to me? Like, what did I do? Like, what kind of karma created this? Is there, like, what does this mean? Like, I felt really like the universe was against me. I kind of was like, it was kind of like, really, really, really frustrated. And I actually had my 21st birthday when I was concussed. The day after my 21st birthday, I was talking on the phone with a friend of mine who was wishing me happy birthday. She was a previous teammate. And when we were speaking, she gets a Facebook message from the assistant national team coach of the Australian Synchronized swimming team. This coach used to be a coach of hers in Canada and had moved to Australia and was coaching there. She knew that my friend had Australian-Canadian citizenship. And she asked her if she would want to try out for the Australian team because they were trying to qualify for the Olympic Games in 2016. Keep in mind, this is 2013. The 2012 Olympic team had all retired. They're really trying to rebuild the team. And so they were kind of sourcing internationally to find other athletes. Synchronized swimming is a very small world. Kind of once you get into it, a lot of people know each other. And as a friend, I said to her, I was like, oh my God, you got to go for this. This is amazing, right? We so often cheer on our friends, but we don't do the same for ourselves. After about 15 minutes, she turns around, she looks at me, and she's like, well, Danielle, like, your parents are Aussie. You did synchronized swimming. You could do this too. And I kind of laughed at her. I was like, are you kidding me? She was always better than me. She was a talented athlete. And I was concussed. And I was in Canada. Like, it just seemed like there was a laundry list of reasons why it wouldn't work out for me. And why any regular person would say, this is impossible. How dare you dream that big? How dare you think that that's possible for you? And even though it scared the living daylights out of me, and I was so scared of what people would think, right? I didn't know how I was going to recover from my concussion. I didn't know how all these teammates who I used to compete against, all these people in my life were like, who does she think she is, being audacious enough to go try out for the Australian team? And even though I was so scared of all of that, I was more scared of wondering what if. I was more scared of wondering who I could have been if I was brave enough. If I looked back at my life when I was all laying on my deathbed and going to meet my maker and really say, who could I have been?
Oh,
sorry.
Wow. All from a concussion.
Yeah.
That's crazy.
Yeah.
That's crazy.
And so in that moment, I made this decision and I said, even though it seems like there's a less than a 1% chance, even though it seems like I'm the last person that this would ever work out for, I'm going to go all in for this, even though it scares the living daylights out of me. And even though I have a whole pile of things working against me, I'm too afraid of having this as a regret at the end of my life, because opportunities like this don't come around twice. And the reason that I share this is because not everyone's going to get an Olympic opportunity, right? But we all have opportunities in our life to level up or back down. And a lot of us back down when we hit a fork in the road, and it's like we get the opportunity to step into who can we become, or we can stay in our comfort zone. A lot of us stay in our comfort zone. But if we are wanting to live our most powerful, beautiful, audacious, vital, zestful life, we have to do the uncomfortable thing. And so many people allow their life to be held back by what they're afraid other people are going to think of them. Right? What they're afraid other people are going to say, they're afraid that people are going to judge them. And as much as I was terrified of all of that, I was more scared of regret. And that one decision changed the trajectory of my life. Within 6 months, I had packed up my bags. I'd recovered from my concussion. I dropped out of university. I moved to Perth, Australia. I didn't know anybody there. I took out a student line of credit. I went all in because even though it scared the living daylights out of me, I wanted to make this possible. And that's when the real work began, because even I wasn't the best athlete, but I realized that I had a great attitude, and I realized that I could work hard. And so I worked on my mind, and I worked on like my self-worth, and I worked on elevating that, and realized as well, even though I didn't have the natural talent, if I can work on my mindset, and if I can work on realizing that I am enough, and if I can work on being a great team player, maybe this actually can get me to where I'm wanting to go. And long story short, I ended up at the 2016 Olympics.
Wow. Oh my gosh, that is so cool. So I'm just fascinated by this. So my son, who's he's 15, and he's a second Dan black belt in Taekwondo. And, so he's been doing that since he was like 6 years old, right? But on an American level or Korean level or Russian level, he's not, a fit for even, major competition, to be perfectly honest. He's athletic, he's good, but he's not at, Olympic level. But he came to Puerto Rico, where Taekwondo is actually a big Olympic sport here. And he walked into a studio, and they're like, "You're a second Dan black belts. You've gotten to that point. All right, what do we need to do to get you to the Olympics?" So it was like an immediate, he started working on it. Unfortunately, I shouldn't laugh because it's not funny, but he broke both of his feet. And unlike unlike your concussion, which gave you drive to like continue on, he was like, "Please stop making me do this. I can't." But it didn't make him stop wanting to go to the Olympics. And he is very athletic and capable. So now he's looking at other sports. But I'm going to show him this interview and this video that it's like mind over matter. You don't have to be the best. You just have to be good enough to get on that team, to move forward and get going. That is so cool. So if you were in, like, let's just say, because you've retired from your sport, but you're still involved, and I'm assuming, are you coaching? What are you doing right now? You're coaching. So what would you say to an athlete like my son, who is like, feeling bad, went through a lot of pain, couldn't walk. We had a family trip planned to Ireland. He couldn't go because he couldn't walk. And so, that's why he doesn't want to break his feet again. So I'm wondering, what would you say to somebody like that?
That's such a great question, and it's something that I actually love speaking. I don't work directly with athletes anymore, but through a lot of the podcasts and media that I do, a lot of people ask me questions, and I do have such a passion of, and that's why I do speaking and do podcasts, to reach this message to athletes and people with dreams. Because one of the things that I think people don't see this enough. And it started to be more of a conversation, but we still need to talk about it more. It is normal to have setbacks. And every single great athlete ever has had huge setbacks. One of the things that I love to do is I go on YouTube and I watch amazing Olympic stories. There's one recently where I was watching about a Brazilian gymnast. In 2008, he was a male gymnast. He's a floor gymnast, so he does all the flips and stuff. And he was like supposed to like be the gold medalist. In his last flip, he fell on his face. Oof. He went to the 2012 Olympics. He went again. And the last flip, he fell over, didn't make it. Then he went to the 2016 Olympics in Brazil, and he had a perfect run. He ended up winning a silver medal. That took him 8 years. And so what I see happen is people think that one setback means that it's not meant for them. Where I really believe that we have to rewire what we see setbacks as. And maybe this is supposed to be a different path for him, and that's okay, right? But maybe this is the moment for him to actually find the fire and the drive inside of him that he can move beyond this. And this can be his story. Because if you read anybody's book, you watch any TV show or movie, no one was like, "I dreamed it and then I did it. The end, done, boom." Right? Like, no one wants to read that story. Yeah. The most amazing stories are the ones where people like your son had the hugest setbacks, and then they kept going. Right. And I think sometimes in this society, I'm not necessarily a fan of like everyone wins a participation medal, because that's just not life. I went to the Olympics, and I speak about this very candidly. I went to the Olympics and I came 8th, but I came 8th, which meant last. But I am still so proud of that. And I have nothing to be ashamed of, because I got to the Olympic Games and I know that I gave everything inside of me. And I know that that is the best that I could have done at that level. And I am so proud of that. Not everyone's story is a gold medal story, but there are still so many inspiring stories. You might have seen the Olympics in 1992. I think it was the UK runner. It's a really, if you could look it up, there's a runner in like a 400-meter sprint, and he pulls his hamstring in the sprint. And what happens is he starts crying, right, and bawling, because it's obviously very painful. His father runs in from the stands, and he says he wants to finish the race. His father is holding him as he walks the rest of the 400 meters, limping with this torn hamstring. And the thing is, his story is still known to this day. He's a motivational speaker. He talks around the world. No one knows who won that gold medal in that race, but everyone remembers him because he had the story of triumph. And I think that those are the messages that we need to lift up in the world when we overcome those struggles.
Wow. That is such a great story. That is such a great story, because that, if you think about that too, in that particular situation, that had to be like a split-second decision. Like the decision to like go sit down and tend to your leg or to finish the race is such a split-second decision that was literally changed his life. Like this very quick split-second injury changed his life to become a motivational speaker, or something people still talk about. That's
and I think, what keeps people, and this is what I speak about with my clients. I talk a lot about mindset, and I run programs on mindset. I work with a lot of my clients around the world on mindset. And one of the things is that I remind people is, it is normal to hit that adversity in life. It is normal to hit a speed bump. Like, that is how you're going to become the person that you're meant to become. But in those moments, we really need to think about our why, because we are so quick to give up on ourselves, but we are less likely to give up on something greater than us. And that's why I love the Olympics, because it's about national pride, right? That maybe that man, if there was no one watching, he would have given up on himself, but he was representing his country. So he would never give up on his country. For me, I had a team. I would never give up on my team, right?
Sure.
How can you make something bigger than yourself? So in the moments where you want to wobble, you remember that it's not just you that you are giving up on, but there is such a ripple effect bigger than the decisions that you make in this life.
So much wisdom there. It's unreal. Like, that's actually the exact strategy I used to get to the top of Kilimanjaro, right? Like, I told everyone in our group, we have a Facebook group, I'm like, I'm going to climb Kilimanjaro. And it was really hard. And I was like, I can't quit because the people in the group will know. And
I told you we're never going to make it. So
yeah, it's true. You did actually tell me that, which also helped motivate me.
I did.
Right?
I didn't, Danielle. Just Danielle, so you know I'm not that bad of a person. I did not. Totally
no, but you probably thought it, right? Like, and I'll tell this story for. Well, I thought I wasn't going to make it, so it wouldn't surprise me if you did. Like, I tell this story because it's really important. Like, when I was climbing Kilimanjaro, every one of the porters, guides, people were like, yeah, you can do this, you can do this, you can do this the whole time. And when I got, my brother was with me, and we actually interviewed him on the show, so people can go back and watch that. But he ended up getting acute mountain sickness and was not able to summit. Like, he was hospitalized for 3 days in Tanzania afterwards. And his blood oxygen fell into the mid 50s on the mountain. And it's like, literally, if he kept climbing another hour, he would have been dead. And he asked, and I said to him, do you want me to come down with you? And he was like, no, you have to finish. Like, you have to finish. And so everyone was saying this, and they were radio contact. They were taking him off of the mountain, but we were in radio contact with him. And they were doing a relay because it was too far. So I was hearing updates, and he's hearing updates. And I never, sorry, it's emotional to me because of how significant it was. I never told anyone this story, but like, what really happened was they radioed down that I got to the summit, and he turned to the guide and he said, I never thought he was going to make it. And the guide said, nobody thought he was going to make it.
Oh, wow.
None of them.
Oh my God, Jeff, that's crazy.
But every one of those people showed up and helped support. I wrote about this in the Coronavirus Collective, which is a book that we wrote for charity. Jillian and I put together last year. I wrote about it, and I talked about, just going 10 more feet and just putting in that last little bit of effort. And how there was a guy named Baltus who played a harmonica behind my head as I was climbing the last little bit of the mountain. And I think what you're talking about is exactly the truth, though, right? You don't quit if there's something more at stake. And the thing about life is there's always something more at stake. Mm-hmm. Like, if I quit there, then I quit the next thing. How you do something is how you do everything. And so it's just so beautiful to hear what you're saying to me. Mm-hmm. Really, really, truly great to have you here. And we have to wrap up soon. So I want to, first off, people should buy your book. I mean, and repeat the title for everyone so that we have it. And I'm going to buy it. I haven't read it. I apologize.
That's okay.
Yeah, but I'm going to buy your book for sure.
It's called The Unlikely Olympian. And
yes,
so if you look at, just Google it, it'll show up, and you can buy it on Amazon.
If people want to reach out to you, though, what's the best way for them to find you?
Yeah, so you can find me on Instagram at my full name, Danielle Kettlewell. So it's like a kettle and a well.
Yeah, I'm following you. I'm following you right now, actually.
Okay, good.
So, I'm doing
then,
that for sure.
On my website, which is my full name, DanielleKettlewell.com. And then I have a podcast as well called the Beautiful Souls Podcast. And I run workshops and trainings and courses and speak around the world, about my story, but more so about and again, it's not about my story. And one of the things that I was always so intentional, because there is so much more to it, right? Again, I wrote a book about it. I could talk about it for days, but there is, it's not about my story, but it's about the essence of it, where people see themselves in that. Because the reason that I say the unlikely Olympian is not every single one of us was born as a Michael Phelps or a Usain Bolt. A lot of us feel very average, and I felt very average, and I was able to do something that blew my own damn mind. And if I could do that and I was a nobody and I went to the Olympics, just imagine what every single one of us can do when we have the right tools in our life. Just like the essence of your show, we have this one life to live, and it is so damn precious, and we get one shot. How can we make the most of it? And yes, it's going to feel uncomfortable. And yes, we're going to have to lean into fear, but that is always also going to help us live this best life ever.
Yeah. Wow. Oh, that's fantastic.
Okay. Thank you, Danielle, so much for being with us today. This was so inspiring. It was just so inspiring.
You have the honor of being only the second guest ever to actually bring tears to my eyes. So thank you for that.
I will hold that in my heart. Thank you.
And it turns out I was already following you on Instagram. So, I might have followed you earlier, like yesterday or something, when I was reading up on you. So I don't know, but maybe it was a couple days ago. Who knows? But anyway, I really appreciate you being on. And Jillian, do you want to?
Yeah, we'll be right back.
Yeah. Hey, quick side note, it's actually Danielle Kettlewell with an underscore at the end. So if anyone's looking at the screen and they see that, it's at Danielle Kettlewell _. Jillian's going to fix that right now. But Jillian, what an amazing guest. Thank you so much for finding her.
Oh, yeah.
I'm a super fan right now, actually. She might be one of my... No, it's the underscore at the end. You still have it wrong. The underscore's at the end. Danielle Kettlewell _. But you'll get it one of these times. But you know what?
This is the most we've... show if I don't screw something up, Jeff.
Yes, it's true. This is the most we've ever talked about someone's Instagram handle. I think you got it right now.
Okay, good. So now everybody...
Should we... Hold on. I'm going to verify that it's right. Danielle. Is that now right? Okay, right. Danielle says it's right.
Okay, listen, Jeff, the biggest thing that was I almost wanted to cut the interview off at this one very particular point, at the very end there, of course, because it was so profound that I think it bears repeating, is go do something that blows your own damn mind.
Yeah. Wow. 10 things she said that in the interview, that was one of them, right? 10 things. I swear 10 things that if that was the only thing she said, it would have been worth talking to her.
Oh my God. Because here's the thing, I know you know what I'm talking about. And this is with people who are constantly looking for more in life. And I know a lot of our audience members are out there in this in this place, right? And they're constantly looking for more out of life, A, and B, they're usually high performers. And you and I, in our own respective rights, in our own worlds, have been high performers in life. So it doesn't, frankly, I know this sounds weird to say, but it's true. It's not hard for me to impress other people.
Yeah, no, same, right? Like
Yeah.
people think I have an amazing life. I mean, I do have an amazing life, but people think, oh, it must be nice. And it's like, I don't want people to think it must be nice. I want to inspire people, right, to do these things.
Right.
To accomplish things that they don't think are possible. And that's what's great about her story. And it's why we started the show. So,
no, but that's the thing. Like, I want to blow my own damn mind.
Yes,
I like blowing other people's minds. It makes me feel good in the moment. It's good for my ego, but that's so temporary. And quite frankly, a lot of times when people are like, "Oh my God, I can't believe you did that. That's so amazing." It makes me feel very uncomfortable. I don't like that. I just like, yeah, no, it's not actually. All I can think is it's not that amazing. It's really-
I know people say that to me. Oh, it's so amazing that you have so much real estate or you recovered from leukemia. I'm like, well, everyone tries to recover from leukemia. No one tries to die. And like, the only thing I know how to do is buy real estate. So it doesn't impress me at all, right?
No, right.
I'm not impressed by that. But you know what I am? You know what blew my mind? That last 10 feet on Kilimanjaro. Like, I didn't think I was going to make it. That's why I agree with you. Like,
I'm being challenged. I got to go blow my own damn mind.
And once you blow your mind, you know what happens next? Every time you face something hard, you think, well, I climbed that stupid mountain, or I did this thing. I built this amazing business, last life ever, into a multi-trillion-dollar business, and Jeff got to retire super rich because of it. That's how you're blowing your mind. And see what I'm doing here? I'm planting seeds.
But no, I have a thing that I'm gonna do to blow my own damn mind. It's kind of steeped in vanity. I don't want to say what it is. I gotta plan it out, but I'll leave that as a little cliffhanger for us. And
that sounds amazing. We definitely have to wrap up. So any last words of wisdom before I wrap the show, Jillian?
Everybody, remember to live the best version of your last life ever.